Hi, my name is Steph. This presentation outlines my targeted teaching plan for a Year 6 science class and demonstrates my understanding of differentiated instruction guided by student data, progression, and evidence-based pedagogical strategies aligned with the Victorian curriculum. It builds upon the data analysis and learning goals developed in Assessment Task 1 and 2, showing how that evidence has informed my planning decisions and differentiated instruction for this class. My Year 6 class consists of students with a wide range of learning needs, including neurodiverse learners, students with social and emotional challenges, EAL learners, students from Indigenous backgrounds, and gifted learners requiring extension. To address this diversity, I will draw on the high-impact teaching strategies and universal design for learning frameworks. These approaches help create an inclusive classroom environment, promoting equitable access and engagement for all students. Accordingly, my instructional design emphasizes multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression to support differentiation and personalized learning pathways. The focus construct for this unit is scientific inquiry skills, which refers to students' ability to engage in systematic investigation processes that reflect authentic scientific practices as outlined by the National Research Council 2012. It incorporates skills such as formulating testable questions, designing fair investigations, collecting and analyzing data, drawing evidence-based conclusions, and communicating findings using appropriate scientific language and conventions. This construct aligns with the Victorian Curriculum Content Descriptors VC2S6I01 to VC2S6I06, which collectively guide the development of questioning, planning, conducting, analyzing, and communicating in science. To support this, I have developed a progression table mapping the continuum of learning within the construct. The table outlines developmental stages from novice to proficient, highlighting increasing complexity and independence in their inquiry skills. For example, novice learners begin by identifying simple patterns in data with teacher guidance, whereas proficient learners independently design investigations, evaluate methods, and communicate findings with precision. The progression table functions as both a diagnostic and planning tool, enabling me to identify each student's current capabilities and determine the next steps in their learning journey. This slide presents the curriculum links underpinning the construct, including the skills of posing questions, planning investigations, collecting and analyzing data, evaluating results, and communicating findings. These content descriptors scaffold the development of scientific inquiry as a progressive construct, supporting students to move from guided investigation to increasing independence in planning, analyzing, and communicating scientific understanding. The rubric accompanying this construct is directly aligned with both the curriculum and the progression table. It assesses each stage of inquiry across 4 proficiency levels: novice, advanced beginner, competent, and proficient. The rubric is color-coded to enhance visual clarity for both teachers and students, with each color representing a distinct proficiency level. This allows learners to easily identify their current standing and understand what is required to progress. This design promotes transparency, supports self-assessment, and fosters student agency in monitoring their own learning progress. To identify what my students are ready to learn, I analysed diagnostic data and created a Gutman chart to determine their placement along the progression levels of novice, advanced beginner, competent, and proficient. The Gutman chart provided clear evidence of each student's demonstrated skills across key inquiry processes, including formulating questions, controlling variables, interpreting data, and drawing conclusions. Students at the novice level are beginning to understand the concept of fair testing and require structured guidance to identify variables and make predictions. Those at the advanced beginner stage can plan simple investigations with some support and are starting to record and interpret basic data. Competent students can plan and conduct investigations independently, accurately interpret datasets, and identify emerging patterns in their results. Proficient learners show strong autonomy in their approach to inquiry, consistently evaluating methods, justifying conclusions, and applying inquiry processes effectively across new contexts. By using these levels diagnostically, I can plan differentiated instruction tailored to students' readiness within the construct of scientific inquiry skills. The learning goals for this unit are explicitly differentiated according to the 4 progression levels. Novice learners aim to develop a foundational understanding of fair testing, follow safety procedures, and identify simple variables with teacher support. Advanced beginners work towards planning simple investigations with guidance and accurately collecting and recording data. Competent learners independently design and conduct fair tests, critically analyze data, and identify emerging patterns in their findings. Proficient learners refine experimental designs involving 2 variables, analyze complex data to evaluate reliability, and communicate findings using scientific language. These goals ensure that all learners are both supported and extended within their zone of proximal development, promoting meaningful progression throughout the construct of scientific inquiry skills. This slide outlines the desired results for my unit, which was developed using Wiggins and McTighe's 2011 Understanding by Design framework. It shows what students will know, understand, and be able to do at each ZPD level. Each goal is differentiated in alignment with Vygotski's theory of the zone of proximal development, ensuring that tasks are appropriately scaffolded for every learner. For example, ZPD-1 learners focus on guided practice and basic safety procedures, while ZPD-4 students demonstrate independence by designing two variable investigations. This structured progression ensures that all learners engage with the content at an appropriate cognitive level while still being challenged to extend their understanding. This approach reflects Tomlinson's 2014 emphasis on differentiating based on readiness and supports Fisher and Frey's 2013 gradual release of responsibility model, which promotes a shift from teacher-led to independent learning. This also aligns with the Victorian curriculum's scientific inquiry skills strand to develop students' ability to question, plan, analyse and communicate scientific findings. In addition to content knowledge, this stage embeds the general capabilities, specifically critical and creative thinking, ethical understanding, and personal and social capability. Students learn to ask meaningful questions, collaborate ethically, and apply scientific reasoning to real-world contexts, building both cognitive and interpersonal skills. The next slide focuses on Stage 2, Evidence, which shows how students demonstrate learning through differentiated performance tasks. Each ZPD group completes the same inquiry, the plant growth investigation, but at varying levels of complexity. For example, ZPD-1 students engage in a teacher-led investigation with visual supports, while ZPD-4 students independently test two variables and evaluate the reliability of their results. This structure ensures that assessment is fair, accessible, and responsive to learner readiness while remaining consistent with universal design for learning principles. The assessment evidence combines both formative and summative strategies, including teacher observations, peer and self-assessment, journals, and digital portfolios to provide a holistic picture of student growth. This approach aligns with Sharratt and Fullen's 2023 focus on formative assessment as a catalyst for continuous improvement and Hattie and Tipperley 2007 emphasis on feedback as a high-impact strategy for enhancing student achievement. The evidence collected also supports the Victorian curriculum's focus on inquiry-based learning and the critical and creative thinking capability, enabling students to apply data analysis, reflection, and communication skills within authentic scientific contexts. This first lesson in the sequence focuses on questioning and planning investigations. Differentiation is guided by Vygotski's concept of the zone of proximal development, ensuring that each group engages in the same inquiry task at a level suited to their readiness. ZPD-1 learners work directly with the teacher through explicit instruction. The teacher models how to ask scientific questions, identify variables, and plan a fair test using visual supports and sentence starters. For example, how does ... affect ... to guide understanding and organisation. ZPD-2 learners also receive structured guidance through scaffolded planning templates and question stems to gradually increase their independence. Alyssa has auditory processing difficulties and is an EAL learner from an Indigenous background. This means she needs extra time to process verbal instructions and benefits from visual and written supports. For Alyssa, I will provide all instructions in written form alongside verbal explanations and display a visual anchor chart with pictures showing each investigation step. To make the learning culturally relevant, I will connect the investigation to native plants and how they grow in different conditions, which values her Indigenous background and makes the content more meaningful. Both ZPD-1 and 2 benefit from explicitly modelled teaching to strengthen foundational inquiry skills. ZPD-3 students begin to take greater ownership of their learning by planning a fair test investigation with one manipulated variable, for example soil type, using exemplar templates for reference, while ZPD-4 students independently design and justify two variable investigations, for example light and fertilizer, using iPads and digital templates to record and refine their plans. All students work in pairs to co-construct investigation questions and plans, fostering collaborative dialogue and peer learning. This is followed by group discussions where students share and critique their questions to identify what makes them measurable and fair. This combination of explicit modelling, digital integration, and structured collaboration reflects a high-impact teaching strategy, specifically explicit teaching and worked examples, while ensuring equitable access for all learners. HITS provides evidence-based instruction that supports differentiation and challenge, and UDL offers multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression. Together, these approaches clarify learning intentions, scaffold skill development, make learning progress visible, and enable all students to engage meaningfully with the curriculum and build confidence in scientific inquiry. Lesson 2 transitions students into the data collection and analysis phase, applying their investigation plans to authentic scientific practice. ZPD-1 and 2 learners continue to receive explicit instruction as the teacher models accurate measuring and data recording. They use visual checklists, label charts, and scaffolded tables to record results safely and systematically. ZPD-3 and 4 students work more independently using iPads and digital tools such as Excel templates and graphing software to analyse their data, identify trends, and explain anomalies. Philippe has social anxiety disorder and is gifted. This means he's capable of analysis but becomes anxious in group settings. To support Philippe, I will pair him with Stefan rather than place him in a large group. He has the option to collect data independently first, then join the group discussion when he's ready. I'll provide him with a digital Excel template for data entry, which reduces the need for verbal interaction while still allowing him to engage with complex analysis. Throughout this lesson, students work in pairs to collect and record data collaboratively, promoting accountability and peer mentoring. They then engage in group discussions to compare datasets and analyse reasons for variation. This interaction enhances scientific reasoning and communication skills while reinforcing fairness and reliability in testing. These strategies align with Sharratt and Fullen's 2023 emphasis on assessment for learning and Hatti's 2023 findings on feedback as one of the most influential factors in improving student achievement. By embedding structured opportunities for formative feedback, peer interaction, and reflection during data collection and analysis, the lesson enables students to actively monitor their progress, refine their scientific methods, and strengthen conceptual understanding. This process cultivates metacognitive awareness and empowers learners to take ownership of their learning, reinforcing the connection between assessment, feedback, and improved scientific inquiry outcomes. The final lesson focuses on communicating findings and reflecting on the inquiry process to consolidate understanding across the unit. ZPD-1 learners are supported through explicit instruction and modelled examples of how to explain results using picture charts, iPads, and scaffolded sentence starters. Lacey has executive functioning difficulties and needs significant support to organise her thoughts and present her findings coherently. I will provide her with a structured presentation template divided into 3 clear sections: what I did, what happened, and why. She will use visual cue cards with sentence starters for each section, such as first I and the plant grew because. ZPD-2 learners use cue cards and reflection templates to explain their results clearly, connecting evidence to conclusions. ZPD-3 students use iPads and laptops to compile digital portfolios that include graphs and written explanations of their findings. ZPD-4 learners independently create digital presentations, justifying their conclusions and proposing new questions for future investigations. Students work in pairs to rehearse their explanations and provide peer feedback before presenting in collaborative group settings. This process not only builds confidence and scientific communication skills, but also strengthens metacognitive reflection. This lesson clearly demonstrates Fisher and Frey's 2018 gradual release of responsibility model as learning moves from teacher-led modelling to guided instruction, collaborative practice, and independent application. ZPD-1 learners engage in explicit modelled practice, I do. ZPD-2 students work with guided supports, we do. All learners collaborate in pairs for rehearsal and feedback, you do it together. And ZPD-3 and 4 learners independently construct and justify their presentations, you do it alone. This gradual shift of responsibility promotes learner autonomy and aligns with Vygotsky's ZPD theory, ensuring that each student progresses from supported to independent performance. This approach integrates Mazzano's 2007 emphasis on reflection as a process for strengthening understanding, ensuring that learning transfers from guided to independent contexts. This combination of reflection and responsibility develops scientific literacy and metacognitive awareness, allowing students to understand not only what they have learned, but also how and why their learning occurred. Student progress will be tracked through ongoing observation, analysis of digital portfolios, and structured feedback aligned with the rubric indicators for the construct scientific inquiry skills. Evidence of progress will be visible through increasing independence in planning and conducting investigations, organisation in data collection, and sophisticated evidence-based reasoning in conclusions. Differentiated expectations across ZPD groups ensure alignment between task complexity and learner readiness, reducing noise by matching assessment evidence to each student's level of inquiry development. Formative assessment strategies include teacher observation checklists. The teacher records inquiry behaviours such as questioning, planning, and collaboration during lessons. For ZPD-1 learners, this may involve noting when students safely follow investigation steps using visual supports, whereas for ZPD-4 learners, it involves recording evidence of independent variable control and peer mentoring. Exit tickets and reflection journals. Students write or record short reflections at the end of each lesson to demonstrate understanding. For example, ZPD-1 learners use picture prompts to describe plan changes, while ZPD-4 learners submit a short digital voice note explaining how data trends support their conclusions. Annotated photos and work samples. Students use iPads to capture different stages of their investigation and add teacher or peer comments. For example, ZPD-1 learners upload photos of the experiment setup with teacher feedback, while ZPD-2 to 4 learners annotate images to show changes in plant growth and connect them to their data tables. Summative assessment strategies include plant growth investigation portfolio. Students submit a completed digital record of their investigation, differentiating according to their ZPD level. For example, ZPD-1 and 2 portfolios include photos, label charts, and scaffolded reflections, while ZPD-3 and 4 incorporate digital graphs, evaluations of reliability, and proposed follow-up questions. Teacher rubric assessment. Each student's work is assessed against the scientific inquiry skills rubric to determine current achievement, identify next step learning goals, and modify ZPD groupings to ensure ongoing alignment with student readiness. By combining formative and summative approaches, assessment becomes a continuous process that generates valid and reliable evidence of student growth and provides a clear direction for future instruction.